Oh. Jeez. That is the wrong direction. There we go. Supposedly I'm live, but I'm not seeing it on the record, so not sure what's going on yet. Oh, there I am. Okay. So I hope everybody is ready to do this. Had to switch the stuff around, kill the audio on the feed. Hold on. All right, I'm good now. Anyway, so where's the camera? Camera's right there. So a little about myself. My name is Neil Gray. I'm known as a planetary guide on Reddit. Basically, I've been on Reddit since about 2013, where I started doing readings on the psychic subreddit. I did that for about a year and a couple months. Every once in a while, people ask me for readings, and occasionally I give it to them. My training started out in 2012. I started out doing automatic writing only because I had a ringing in my ears, and that ringing in my ears was very difficult to figure out. It was one of those things where I knew it was intelligent. I was in a paranormal group in 2011, and in that time I was able to get a recording of what was going on, and there was voices that came through on the recording, so there was something there. So I knew it was intelligent. I got it to move from ear to ear and stuff like that, but that's how I got started in this. And so it took about a year of doing the automatic writing before I graduated to trance channeling, which is a bit more advanced than automatic writing, but not too much advanced. Basically, it's just allowing that connection that you made with the automatic writing to go into a situation where you're allowing them to actually speak using your voice. I call it sitting in the back seat because I'm actually just watching this, and if I want to, I can grab the steering wheel and take over at any time. So it's one of those things where it's like I am allowing them to speak through me. One of the things that we'll do today is I may try to pull the person from the Akashic record to speak to you, but if not, that's perfectly fine. I know what it is that we're going to go through. So after that, I took some classes on how to become a psychic. It was called Intuitive 101 and 102. Went through both those classes. Did so well, the teacher asked me to teach the 101 class. So I taught the 101 class about 3, 4, or 5 times. Not sure exactly how many times. It was fun, and it helped me learn a little bit more and get me to a point where I feel like I can teach other people how to do some of this stuff. So the whole reason why I'm doing this is because I have seen people try to talk about the Akashic record, and the way that they talk about it is like it's some sort of religion, or like they had to go to a class for it. And the truth is, the Akashic record is just that part of reality that is in everything. So if you're talking like what's in a tree, you can look at a tree and ask the tree what's going on with you, and it will give you little bits of information. It's a tree, so there's not a lot. So when it comes to the Akashic record, we're not talking about like going there every single time to actually communicate with somebody there to give us the information. We're actually just going to pull the information. But in order to do that, we have some things that we need to do first. So the whole thing for me started when my first experience in learning it, I was sitting in on a lecture by Susan Weinhardt. She actually learned from Brian Weiss, who's big on the previous lives. His book is Many Lives, Many Masters. She was doing a talk on retrieving your record. And we went through it, and what I came up with was a parchment paper, and that parchment paper was all blacked out. So I was really frustrated by that, and what I realized was happening was that I had literally blocked myself out of viewing my own Akashic record. I need to figure out how to do that correctly. So what I ended up doing was learning myself how to communicate, partly through the automatic writing, some through the channels, but mostly to get this information that's out there. I know it's out there, I can feel that it's out there, but it's just a matter of grabbing it. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a little walk mentally to where this Akashic Library is, and we'll look around the facility. And the reason why I'm doing this is because it's going to strengthen the ability to retrieve the information. And it's just a mind exercise that we're going to do. There's really nothing more to it than that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a walking way of using your own mental, what's the word? You're going to use your imagination. Plain and simple. You're going to use your imagination. You're going to just let these things just flow through you. You know, and if you do pick up images, you have a paper, you have a pen, write it down. And it doesn't matter if it's right or wrong, as long as you're receiving the information. And as long as you're getting any information, that's better than none. So, because it's part of your thought processes, some of that might not be correct. And that's fine. But the thing is, as you work through it more and more, you will receive better and better information. And by doing this, you will get solid, definitive, true information. One of the things that I want to concentrate on is looking at your path. Now, the path is part of your record. So imagine your record as a book. You open up a book and it's like there's table of contents. If you want to know about your allergies, it's listed there. If you want to know about all the surgeries that you had, that's going to be there too. But what you want to look at is you want to look at a representation of your path. And that's going to give you this look as where you are now and what's going ahead of you. This is something I do in readings quite often. I think about 1/3 of my readings are that. Another third is the physical stuff that I do. I can read people physically as opposed to empaths who read people emotionally. I can feel all their pains and stuff like that. It's just one of the things that I'm able to do. So what we'll start with is a clear and energize, and then we'll travel to the library using your imagination. Once we've traveled through the library and got a feel of what it is and what it's like, I hope that you've drawn some pictures or taken notes, because that information will help you when we finally pull a record from the library. So once we do that, we'll get your path, and then I'll describe my experience from the record. And after that, if you have any questions, please type them in chat. I have a chat window open to my left here, so I will be able to respond to your questions. I think there's about a 15-second delay on this, so we're going to try to keep this pretty short, because there really isn't a lot of information to be received from the Akashic Library. It's just the stuff that's there. And once you're able to connect to it, it should be just really quick, just coming at you. Okay? So what I'm going to ask you to do now is I'm going to have you close your eyes and imagine that you're in a bubble. Your auric field has generated a bubble around you, and in front of you there's a control panel. And on the control panel is a single button. Press that button. So when you press that button, it's going to start moving, and it's going to start moving in a direction. It doesn't matter what direction that is, as long as it's moving one direction, left or right. Sometimes they'll spin above or below. That's okay. But what you're going to experience as it's moving is you're going to experience this pulling, and it's going to start at your feet, and it's going to feel like there's a wind that's blowing out. So as it's spinning, it's going to spin faster and faster, and you're going to feel it in your feet, feel it move up into your legs, into your knees, move up into your thighs, into your waist, feel it through your chest, feel it move up, you feel it on your arms, you feel it really pulling, it's moving really fast, feel it come around your head, it's a cool breeze, it's just blowing air out from you, and when it gets to the top, it stops. A second button will appear on your control panel. So what you're going to do is you're going to press that one now. When you do that, the bubble that you're in starts filling with light, and you can feel it with your feet. It doesn't matter what color the light is. The color of light depends on your mood for the day. So if you're feeling a certain way, it might be blue, it might be black, it might be yellow, it might be green, it might be gold, it might be silver, it might be pure white. That's fine. Just let it flow up through the bubble. As it moves up your legs, you're going to feel the energy. You're going to feel it move up over your legs, up into your hips, into your torso, up around your arms, comes up to your neck, flows up until it covers your head. And when it completes, it'll stop and you'll feel like you were glowing. And that's what we do as a normal practice with psychic work. We do a clearing, we do an energizing. If you're not doing that, you're not clear for when you're doing the energy work or the psychic work. You always have to do some form of that. This is the version I came up with. You might find something else that works better for you, and that's fine. So, to get to the library, I'm going to need you to close your eyes again and imagine that you're traveling toward the moon. Now, we're going to travel toward the 10 o'clock position of the moon. And you're going to want to keep the moon about, if you put your hand out about a foot away from your face, the moon should never get bigger than that. So please keep that in mind. So you should be watching yourself go past the moon at the 10 o'clock position, and you're going to hit a blank spot where, like, all of a sudden everything just blinks. When that happens, look down at your feet. Not literally look down at your feet, but figuratively, while your eyes are closed, imagine looking down your feet. You should see a path. And that path is where we're going to begin. So what I'm going to ask you to do now is I'm going to ask you to look around you. Look at what's going on in this environment. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to bring in my contact, Helen. She supposedly works at the Akashic Records. She wants to talk. I did see her walking around here a little bit ago, so I know she's here. So I'm going to bring her in. Okay, this is Helen speaking. We assume that you're all here. Some of you are not here. That is fine. We are going to continue. Now you'll notice that the path that we are on is not exactly a rocky path. This path is made out of crystals. This crystalline path is what we'll walk through. As we walk forward along the path, there is a curve, and it takes you to the structure. This structure is the Akashic Library. Please make note of the structure that you are seeing. You'll also notice that there is an opening at the base where we are headed toward. There are no doors to the Akashic Library. As we walk closer, you should be able to see people standing in the atrium. These people are here to assist you. They are librarians. As we walk into the atrium, one of these will come up to you and say hello and welcome you to the library. If they do give you a message or a name, please write it down. Now there are two main hallways in the library. One is darker and occurs straight ahead. One is off to the side. We will go off to the side at this time. So follow that hallway. And what we will enter is we will enter the auditorium. There is an auditorium in the Akashic Library. As you enter into the auditorium, look at who is sitting in the seats. Look how many seats there are. You can talk to these beings that are in the seats. I don't know if you'll understand them. They might not speak English. They might not be human. Note that there is a stage, that there is something on the stage. Take some time to view this. If you have an impression, you might want to draw it, write it down. Now we are going to leave the auditorium. You can come back at any time. It is open to everyone. Now we will go down the other hallway. And as we go down the other hallway, you're going to notice a large book. This is the Book of Life. Take a good look at it. Take a look at what is going on with it. Is the book open? Is the book closed? Who is there? As you move around the book, notice its size. From here, we will proceed on to the library, and is continued down this hall. The hall does appear dark, and that is by purpose. As you come out of the darkness, you will see what is essentially a library. It looks like there are books everywhere. If you are able to see the person that you met when you entered the complex, go to them and ask them to show you your records. If you are not seeing that person, Just say to yourself, I want to see my records. What you're going to see is you're going to see some representation of a stack of books, a pile of parchment scrolls, something that resembles your records. What you're going to want to look at is you're going to want to look at what is specifically your current record. This current record could still be a scroll, could still be a book. Now you can open it up and take a look at it. I don't know what you'll find in there. Maybe you'll find something interesting, maybe you'll find something not interesting. But I will leave you to this and return you. Okay, so I assume that you're already viewing your record. So for me, what I'm doing when I'm accessing the Akashic records is I am taking a name. Could be my name, could be somebody else's name, could be a representation of a name. And I say, for this person, what is their path? Okay? That's all I ask. And what I'm getting is I'm getting a representation of a path. It looks like a road. It has distance. It has hills. It has things along the side. What you're going to want to do is ask, show me my path. And you should, if you're doing it right, you should see some sort of road. Now, if you're good at drawing roads, you're going to have pretty good time trying to draw what you're seeing. If you're not as good at roads, just try and draw what it kind of looks like. I'm no artist myself, so I know exactly what kind of problems you're going to deal with. What you're trying to do is get a representation of what you're seeing up here in your imagination and trying to put it on that piece of paper. So when you're doing that, you're going to actually get a true representation of the path. Now, I do want to remind you, it's not always going to be correct, especially the first couple times you do it. There's really no other way of doing it. You have to learn to do it over and over and trust that the information is going to be correct, because eventually it's going to be 100% correct, and you're going to find it very difficult to argue against it. Some of the stuff that I've come up with, I've been able to narrow it down within like 10 days of when something will happen. I've seen lots of stuff for different people according to doing this, so this is the way I say you can do this. Now, if you want to access anything else in the Akashic record, after you've done this little brain exercise, what you're going to want to do is say, I want to do an Akashic record lookup, and I want it to be on whatever. You know, if you want to learn about how Jesus healed, you can look that up. You might not expect the kind of results that you would get by looking that up. What I saw was when I looked that piece of information up, I was shown a specific wave pattern formation. Now, I don't understand what that means, but supposedly that's what Jesus was doing when he was healing people. I don't know why that was presented that way, but that's what they gave me. So you can access pretty much everything, and you can ask for pretty much anything. You want to look at your karmic record? It's there. Go ahead. I'm not stopping you. Nobody's stopping you. Imagine that it's like your public library. Go to your public library, or in this case, your galactic library. It's your public galactic library, I guess. You know, I'm not the one that named it Akashic. I think it's kind of a goofy word myself. So as you went through this, you probably saw some interesting things, or maybe you didn't. I don't know. I've been there a couple times in my dreams, and the first time I saw it, the actual structure was kind of big. I mean, it looked like it was at least 50 stories high, possibly 100, 150. I don't know. It was just huge. So I know it's large, and that there was no door. So like the path just leads right up to it. And the auditorium was an interesting one, and that's the reason why I wanted to make sure that you got to experience this, because one, it's a good way to really get the imagination going, but it's another thing to understand what is actually going on in there. So when I saw it, there in those seats, and it went up about as high as the building itself, that the beings that were in the seats were the representatives of every single species in the known universe. And what they were waiting for on the stage was somebody to sit. And what was on the stage was a throne made of stars. I don't know who they were referring to. I don't know what it is that they were actually seeing, but that's what they were waiting for. The Book of Life is rather grotesque for me. I saw a bunch of scribes, and those scribes were writing out names, and the names came across because of these little Cupid-like angels bringing little pieces of parchment paper with names on it. So they'd drop it, and the scribe would write the name. But the thing was, these scribes were like deteriorating. The one that I talked to, he had no legs and barely had any belly on him. He was basically torso, arms, and head, and there was almost skeleton-like. He said that it was his job to do the work until it was done. I don't even know where to go with that, but that's how wild your imagination can go. As to whether it's actually true or not, you got me. You got me on that one. But it's a good exercise. It's a good exercise to use your imagination to grab onto these things, because when you grab onto the little pieces of information, you're going to get information. It's just plain and simple. So I think that's pretty much what I have for everybody. I know this is going to be archived because I know somebody arrived late. That's fine. You can watch this again and again, and feel free to stop when you rewatch this, just so that you can give time to allow your imagination to work. I tried to be as quick as possible through this because I didn't want to give you the idea that I am really forcing you to have these images. So go back, look at the stuff, and I think at this point I'll open up for questions. So if you have any questions, go ahead and let me know. So I have on the screen, I have the video playing. So what got me into the paranormal field? Thank you very much. The paranormal intrigued me as far as where that ringing sound was coming from that I described at the beginning, because I really wanted to know what was going on. I mean, it seemed intelligent enough. It didn't make any sense. It only showed up at certain times. It wasn't like constant. It really interfered with hearing tests that I had when I was a child. So I'd put on headphones and like I would get a ringing, and it would actually ruin my results. I have pretty good hearing, so I don't know why that happened. I've heard of tinnitus from headphones, but this really didn't match, because a lot of the times when I wear headphones, I wouldn't get that. So I don't know what that was about. I joined a paranormal group because the leader of the group I had learned Reiki from in 2008. And in 2008, the Reiki training I got, I went first and second level, and then I found somebody else that taught me the master level. And after I did that, I'm like going, what the hell am I doing? I'm a healer? Really? So that's kind of the thing that led me to the paranormal. I was there for about, let's see, from March till December, so that would be 9 months. They kicked me off the team because they asked me to do 40 hours of audio work in 3 days. And I still had a 8-hour job that I still have the job. And it pays really well, but you know, you choose between your job and doing audio work, listening for spirits. It's like, forget it, I can't do that, you know. So that's what got me into the paranormal. I didn't really learn that much. That's the only time I ever had any kind of thing going on with seances, only because the leader was a medium. She was one of those full I see spirits mediums. You know, I don't see spirits like that. It's not like that to me. But I did see spirits while as part of the group. So like one of them was an investigation, and I turn around and there's this brown outline of a woman standing there. I'm like, whoa, you know. Another one was a cemetery where I could see like legs just walking around. It was just very weird. But that's about as strong an image I get when it comes to my clairvoyance, if you can call it that. So let's see another question. Would I say I'm clairaudient? Not exactly. Fully clairaudient would mean that you hear the voices like there was somebody talking to you. Not quite like that. It more sounds like somebody is speaking in my head that isn't me. Because I'm a guy, and the one thing I love doing is thinking about nothing. You know, just going brain dead. Just, you know. And it's those little voices that while you're in that mindset, it's like all of a sudden somebody will like say shirt or something like that, and then you look down, it's like, oh, you got something on your shirt, and things like that. So I do hear tiny little bits. In readings it takes quite a bit, but I do try to get names out of the guide just so I can relate to the person that I'm reading to. So that's my level of clairaudience, so that gives an idea of what I'm hearing. Do I feel comp sci and IT professionals are more likely to seek out spiritual enlightenment because of how soulless our profession is? Interesting question. I would say that because I'm in IT, that it's given me the opportunity to gather more information. I see myself as an information gatherer or a collector. I just collect little pieces of information here and there. When it comes to readings, I can pull in the information, but I really don't want to keep it, so I completely discard it. So like if I had a reading 1 month and the same person showed up with second month, I barely remember them. And that's the way you need to have it. You can't really do well as a psychic if you're invested in somebody. And it's really hard to do readings on yourself and family. It's easier to do it for random strangers only because you don't have an emotional or egotistic connection to people. And so the information that you're going to receive is just raw information, and you don't know what to do with it. You just spit it out. And I would say that as somebody in IT, we're just collecting information. We're just gathering information. We process information. So it's just how we think. Accountants and CPAs. My brother did some accounting work. His friend in college is an actual CPA accountant. I think he's just religious. He really has no interest in this kind of field. But I could see computer scientists, IT professionals being interested in. So let's see what else we got. Do you have any experience with astral projection? Funny thing. So in my channeling work, these guys that I've channeled, they've identified themselves as Celtic deities for some reason. I'm like, okay, you're Celtic, whatever. You know, I don't buy it for a second. It turns out they have me connecting through Arcturus. And so there's an actual location near Arcturus where there's a facility, and it's a large processing facility where if you astrally connected there, they can pass you on further out at a better efficiency. And they described this tube connection. And so there was like this tube, and they said it's really, really thin, and it's got like these hexagonal organizations to it, and it won't break, but it could break, so be very careful with it. So you shoot right through it, and then from there on I connect to these beings that are Celtic in nature. And couple weeks, maybe a couple months ago, they actually got me out there. It was one of those rare opportunities where I could fully astral travel, and they showed me where they are. And the concept of time and distance is not something they deal with. So they could be across the room 1 second, and the next second they're right in your face, like, hi. They just don't have that concept. I don't think it's part of their reality. If you read Neil Donald Walsh's Conversations with God, in book 3, he talks about the problems with time. So I think it has something to do with that. So let's see what else we have. When people ask, what is your religion, philosophy, what do you usually say? I'm a Christian. You know, read my Bible every now and then. I'm not a church goer. I don't like church, especially since they stopped playing the organ. I thought the organ was one of the best parts of church, and now they got like these praise and worship bands, and I really don't like that style of music. Let's see what else we have. Well, that's currently all the questions I have. If there's any more questions, please feel free to contact me. My email address is theplanetaryguide@gmail.com. You can also contact me on Reddit, Planetary Guide on Reddit. I'm almost always on there, just hanging around, just reading what's going down. I do find it interesting how many people come across on the psychic subreddit that are like saying, I have abilities. I've been watching that for some time now. I do think there is increase in people noticing that they have these things. So something's up. But just want to thank everybody for showing up. I'm sure other people will watch this later. I want to thank them as well. I am doing this for free. If I feel this has gone well, I may cover the oracle that I invented. It's called Intuitive Flux. It's a dice-based oracle based off of polygons. It's an interesting thing because I've done rune readings, and I don't like rune readings because runes are basically little stories in symbolic form, and then you match them up and the stories mesh and things like that. The Intuitive Flux is much more simple than that, and so I think it is a good tool if you wanted to learn how to really tune in to intuitive information. So, oh, one more question. Okay, from a skeptical perspective, is there any information that you received from the Akashic database that would prove its existence? Pulling people's paths. I've never seen anything more accurate. I've never seen anything that gave me better information. And I'm talking about including talking to the person's guides. Guides only take me so far. I don't talk to spirits because they're completely worthless. Oh my goodness, they're worthless. All I want to say is, like, I love this person, I'm just here for them, and I just, well, yeah, whatever. This is not good information, especially if you're paying by the minute. You know, that's the last thing that you need because you know it. You should know it. And it's one of those things where we just need to get the information as fast and as accurate as possible. And the Akashic Record is a good way to do it. It'll get you there. So, thanks everybody, and look forward to seeing you online.